Welcome to the Vibe Broken Arrow. Mr. Spurgeon, you want to start us off and just give us kind of the nuts and bolts. Tell us about this agreement.
I'd be glad to, Aaron. Let me start with what I actually started with the city council last night, and that was I've always believed in my career, and we've really focused on this here in Broken Arrow, and there was a long history before I got here of understanding the importance of what the role of the city is with regard to economic development. And it really comes down to one thing, and that is creating and maintaining an environment that promotes private investment. When you do that, when you have a city council that is willing to work with the private sector, when you have a community development department that is a partner in terms of outlining what is expected and then making sure that things move the process timely but yet require certain standards, you develop a reputation as that you're a great place to work. And so I do believe that that environment that the council and the administration have created is why you're seeing success in Broken Arrow. Go back 2 years ago, Jennifer Rush started a relationship with this company, Notes Live, about possible ventures here in Broken Arrow, and they were looking for space for a specific type of venue. That did not work out, unfortunately. However, we maintained that relationship with them, so when they came back to us in late July, early August of this year and said that they were looking to put an outdoor amphitheater, at the time it was something less than what was approved last night. We immediately jumped on the possibility of making that happen. And with the support of the council, over the last 2 months, Jennifer Rush, led by the entire administration at the direction of the council, was able to bring to the governing body last night an agreement that would allow us to partner to bring a 12,500 seat outdoor amphitheater to our community, specifically in the southeast part of the city, on property either that the city owns or we're looking to acquire. And we're looking at, if everything goes as planned in the agreement, that facility could be completed and ready for concerts by the end of 2025.
And of course, you're talking about Events Park over just across the Creek Turnpike from NSUBA. Councilor Parks, you mentioned last night that you were really excited about this agreement, and you specifically mentioned Events Park. What is it about that venue that makes it the perfect location for the amphitheater?
Well, the Events Park is something that my own family uses a lot, and a lot of people do use the Events Park. In fact, I was just out there a couple of weeks ago working with the Scott Fest and the Civitans, very well used. The people that own that property, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, would be very pleased with how much that was being used, because they worked with the city for the city to get that property for the public's use. And what greater public use can we have than this? Now, from the master plan back in the early 2000s, 2011 anyway, it was set up that there would be a amphitheater in there. And so I'm just very excited. I feel like the original owners would be very pleased with this. And the council is developing that or looking at that in such a way to protect all the properties around and also make it venue so that the surrounding community can come and enjoy the park. Hopefully we're able to purchase a little bit more land to the north, and that would make it where we could actually utilize our existing park nearly the way it is, with the exception of parking. So I'm just very excited about this. I think it's good for the community. I think it's good for the whole area. And I would certainly commit that the council will be looking at all this. They'd be looking at the sound to make sure there's not a problem with that. They'll be looking at all the traffic, especially, to make sure that traffic flow does not negatively affect the property owners that are there. So I'm just enthused, but it was supposed to be an amphitheater there, and that's what it looks like it's going to be.
How important was it to you that Events Park stays pretty much like it is now, and we acquire that land to put the amphitheater there, just so you still have events like Scott Fest, Camp Bandage, those sorts of things? Those
things was very important. I didn't want to throw one out, for the other. So I was just very excited and you know what I mean, certainly positive in this way, because I do want those events to stay. Not only that, I want the events, my wife and I go out there and walk. We go out there and take our grandkids fishing. And I wanted to continue doing that because a lot of other people are doing that same thing. So we get the events park staying pretty much the way it is, and plus this is going to be certainly an attribute for the community.
Now, with these agreements that we have with companies that come in, they do market analysis. So they look to see where they want to go and is it a good fit for them. in your estimation, just in conversations that you've had with them, why is this a good fit, the Events Park? Is it because of the turnpike? Is it because of distance to homes in the area? What is it that you've learned in your time with talking with the folks from Notes Live?
Well, I learned not only from Notes Live, I've learned in my research about how people are spending money today, that when it comes to discretionary income, which is really what you pay for when you go to do any type of entertainment or purchase of clothes, anything that's after you pay all your bills, more people today are looking for an experience. And that experience, especially for the younger generations, is going to concerts, is looking for some type of entertainment or excitement or thrills, amusement parks, hiking, biking, passive, active recreation. And I knew that before we met with Notes Live. They made it very clear that they've done their marketing analysis, and they have, they're on the forefront of this transition of how people are spending their money, of wanting more in a type of entertainment like going to live concerts, especially outside. They shared with us their marketing analysis in some respects, and they determined that there's no issues with actually building this type of venue in this area, and that it's much needed. So what you're going to have is you're going to have this circuit that basically starts in Colorado, comes through Oklahoma down into Texas, because as you know, just a couple of months ago they announced they were going to put a similar facility in Oklahoma City. And this is how confident I am about this project, is their private commitment for this project is somewhere between 70 and $71 million. And if you look at the public portion commitment for this partnership that the council has approved, you're looking at a project between public and private funding that could be close to $100 million. And so the city wouldn't have made these investments that we recommended to the council if we didn't feel confident that the company we're working with had the wherewithal and the means and done the research. And they were very, very open with exactly why they wanted to do this. And this is an emerging market, and I think they're taking advantage of. In the Tulsa metropolitan area, specifically Broken Arrow, we are blessed that they're going to be here.
I think you looked at my notes. I was going to ask about the public investment. So if you don't mind, let's get into that. What are these public improvements that the city is committed to doing?
Well, I'll touch on a couple. Then there's a couple that I would like for Councilmember Parks to talk about that are very, very important to him. The one thing the council said when I brought this to them, to the person, is they want this to be a great experience. And so what's the definition of a great experience? That is, obviously, we've all been, or most people have been to a concert, and you have to make sure that it's easy to get in, and you want to make sure when it's over, whether it's a sporting event or any type of live event, there's always going to be a delay in terms of the times you get to your vehicle or however you're getting home, whether it's through a bus or whatever, there's going to be a time. And the council basically said, let's make this a great experience that is going to want people to come back. Because we've been to venues, I certainly have, to where it is extremely difficult to get out and you're delayed for hours and hours and hours. And you just feel like, you know what, I really want to go see this artist, or I want to go to see this live event. But because it's so difficult to get in and out, that something I've avoided going. We made sure, I believe, that hasn't happened here. And the improvements that we're going to be making to make sure we have a great experience is, number one, we're going to be improvements to the entrance, which is going to ensure folks can get in and get out easily. Okay, we've had conversations with the Turnpike Authority about some improvements we're going to be making around their exchanges right there on New Orleans. Secondly is that when you have a 12,500 seat venue, you have to plan for total capacity, which means that even though about 25 to 30% of those coming to the venue are going to be going through a rideshare program like Uber or Lyft, we still have to plan for total capacity, which means we need 3,360 parking spaces. Right now, we have about 300 that are on site. We're working on a partnership with NSU, which we use right now as a part of other events like Scott Fest. And so the city's going to have to be putting in approximately 2,000 parking spaces on site to accommodate all those that are coming by vehicular, which they anticipate will have the average about 2.5 people are basically patrons per vehicle. And so those two of the most important improvements, obviously stormwater, landscaping, lighting for safe and security, all those things are going to be a part of the parking lot improvement. And then there's one or two improvements that I know the council member wants to talk about, Aaron, so I'm going to pass it over to him.
And he talked about the road improvements there from New Orleans Square, and there were some other things on the agenda last night for some other ingress and egress.
Well, there's an ingress and egress that we've had a problem with for several years. Now, this particular issue was that we're looking at was a economic development. So we really didn't know about the council because it had to be kept, just between the city and the developers. We didn't know about it until the last 2 or 3 months that they were looking at one. But the part of the project out there was there's a road coming off of 225th there in the Highway 51 that's extremely dangerous. And several years ago, I really pushed for that we put a gate up because people were bringing their kids to school and they were turning off that highway of 51, and that's a very dangerous highway. There's a curve and a hill there together. So we just put a gate up. And they said, well, you can't do that. Well, we did do that. And we left the gate up, and the industrial park couldn't come that way because we wanted to close it. So the citizens couldn't bring their kids down that dangerous highway. So Kenny Schwab has been working, and finally, just in the last month or so, it come to fruition that get to the railroad company and make a new crossing. They're going to close that one, but that all came together just that same time. In fact, those two items showed up on the council agenda. One we knew about for the last maybe month or month and a half, and one we've known about for 3 or 4 years that was going to have to do something. So those come together and really worked out right. And, I might add also, we talk about this public and private venture, and we've done this before. Bass Pro, actually, we spent the same amount of money on Bass Pro as we are with this venture here. We've got the downtown Rose District. We've got the research in the South Broken Arrow. Well, those are all public-private endeavors. But look what Bass Pro has done for the northern part of the city of Broken Arrow. So I look at it, hey, we're doing this again, and I think it would benefit the city of Broken Arrow.
A couple of other public-private partnerships that we've had is Flight Safety, Alpha Laval. And the things that I like about those is those really brought in jobs, whereas that's one thing we have a hit on with this one is there's going to be some direct and indirect jobs that are included with this. You want to talk about that just a little bit and what that means for our economy?
Well, go ahead.
Council has always said one of our top priorities really is job creation, job retention, and creating more opportunities to shop local because we're one of the last states in America that is so heavily dependent upon sales tax. And so this venture, once construction gets started, could result in 500 or 600 temporary jobs related to the construction. And then once the project or the venue is open, I should say, and you're looking at about 80 to 90 jobs that are going to be there, full-time jobs. In addition, when you have between 45 and 60 events a year, traffic management is going to be extremely important. So you're going to have individuals, mainly in public safety, that will be on site or around the area, making sure that people have a great experience in and out. So it's going to create an increase in the economy, number one, for those coming to the venue. And the other thing council was very, very diligent and agreed to do was we're gonna repay the city's portion of the public improvements through the creation of what is known as a tax incremental financing district, which will be a sales tax only tip. We're going to draw the lines not only around the park where the venue will be, but also we're looking strategically at the other properties in the area that could be developed, which could result, or we believe will result in, a convenience store or two, restaurants for sit down before or after, and those are going to create other permanent jobs that are actually going to help grow our economy in the Southeast specifically, but also overall to help maintain a great quality of life, which Councilman Parks talks about. Probably every time he talks to a group of people, it's always about the quality of community, which I think this ultimately is just going to make Broken Arrow a better place to live, work, and play.
And I just might add to that, and maybe that's one of your questions, but you're looking at ad valorem taxes also, because the ad valorem taxes are going to be there because that's not part of the TIF. So we'll immediately start gaining ad valorem tax. So will Wagner County, all of Wagner County, and then the businesses that he said will be added, those will all be ad valorem tax that our school systems, the county, Wagner County, and the city of Broken Arrow will gain from also.
That's a really great point. When do you, so what are the next steps with the creation of this TIF district? I know that we just created a review committee and Vice Mayor Gillespie is the chairperson of that committee. What are the next steps as far as that is concerned, and when do you anticipate that becoming a reality?
Well, actually, Council's passed the legislation to start the process to form the TIF review committee. Councilman Parks, the last two TIFs that we did had the honor of actually leading those two TIF district discussions. As you mentioned, Vice Mayor Christy Lesby will head this one up. That process is going to start probably in the next 30 days or so. It's a lot simpler because all we're going to be looking at is a sales tax TIF, which really the city is the sales tax. That process we are hoping will be done by the end of the year, and then we'll have the actual boundaries and everything outlined. We're going to have so many things going on concurrently, Aaron. So you've got one path that's going to have the TIF district. The other path that's very critical right now, per the agreement, is both parties, Notes Live and the city, are in the process of developing the estimates for the improvements that have to be made so we can come up with construction schedules. And we're supposed to have those estimates and those construction schedules by the end of November, early December, so then the administration can sit down and see exactly what the construction timelines are going to be, because not only does Notes Live have to actually build their facility, the city's got to run a number of different paths to make public improvements, from the intersection to actually make sure people can get in and out, improvements on New Orleans. Then there's going to be a need to run a water line, a sewer line, also potentially fiber to help with the overall experience. And then, as Councilman Parks said, is that we are also running another track about the second form of ingress egress, which is a road to the east of Rosewood School that we're trying to get approval from the railroad, will eventually tie in to Washington and Highway 51, where the state right now is very close to actually awarding a contract, probably next year, to realign that intersection to put a traffic signal, which is going to provide that safety for those people that are traveling to and from school and to the venue. As Councilman Parks said, we have to have a safe way for people to get in and out of the park, albeit to the school for recreation or eventually the venue, to make sure that people can get there safely and go home safely.
You know, I was watching social media last night and this morning whenever I woke up, and it seems like the overall response is really positive and people are really excited about it. Some folks have expressed some legitimate concerns. Is there something in place that people are going to be able to express those concerns, whether it's with us or with the folks from Notes Live? Is there anything in the works going on there?
Well, we're going to have certainly we'll have a meeting coming up, with the public and inform them, and that would be a place that they can ask questions and certainly make any suggestions if they wanted to make. I will assure them that the council will continue looking at this. We look at the traffic flow. We're going to look at the sound. You know what I mean? We're looking at actually the way that the amphitheater is going to be turned so that it would minimize the sound that's going out. So it's going to actually be turned more toward up the turnpike. So we're looking at all those things, but there will be meetings coming up here soon that we've made the decision that we're doing it, but we certainly want to do the best job that we can at it. And so any input that we could get to make a better venue there, we certainly would like to look at it.
Let me just add that there is going to be the need for Planning Commission approval for the zoning, actually the layout of the facility. That is going to be extremely important. Council said this is not going to be do as I say, not as I do. Okay, and so we're going to make sure we follow our rules with regard to how you go through the planning process. So there's going to be all kinds of opportunities for public input. But once again, the council made it very clear is that at some point we need to open this up for the residents that live in the area and for the public to learn more about the project. And we're gathering all the information right now, as council member said, in order to be able to answer those questions. And at some point, Aaron, probably within the next 90 days, if not sooner, there will be a letter that will go out to those residents that live in the area of the events park. Although all of them live in Wagner County, we consider that to be essentially East Broken Arrow in many respects. And so council has a great deal of concern and respect for those people because we know that they support our economy. And I think it's safe to say we'll be sending out a letter and some information that'll ask maybe some frequently asked questions, which you're a master at putting together. And then we'll let them know the date of that venue. And Notes Live has made it very clear that they want to help facilitate that. They'll have their experts on site to be able to answer those questions, and we're looking forward to that meeting because those folks have the need, they have the right actually to know exactly what's going to be built and how it could potentially affect them to basically coming home because the concerts are in the late afternoon or evenings, what they could expect in the evenings or on weekends as a result of this.
So in addition to that town hall, then we're going to have public hearings as far as the TIF is concerned, planning commission meetings. All of those are public meetings.
Yes.
Correct.
So people within the community, if you have concerns, please come and express those, and that's the appropriate forum for them. And you want to hear from the public.
Exactly. Right. We want all the information we can get, go from there. Right. So we don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I feel like it's going to happen. But the design of it and all that, we're looking for input, from that. And the professionals are going to be giving us input too, especially sound, lighting, those kind of things.
Sounds fantastic. What's the timeline? When do we see this thing? When do we see our first concert?
Well, the contract calls for the facility to be completed by the end of 2025, which sounds like it's a long time away, but it seems like in government, things move very, very quickly.
It'll be here before we know it.
I think the most important thing to me is that we delve into the agreement, we make sure we have our action steps, and we're running so many projects or initiatives concurrently, and that Jennifer Rush, who has done an amazing job of shepherding this entire initiative, and I just want to send her a shout out along with all the department directors. Jennifer has worked tirelessly on this project to make sure that we got to the point last night, and I couldn't be proud of her efforts. I also want to mention our EDC did a lot of vetting of the company, because obviously if the city's going to commit approximately $18 to $25 million, you want to make sure you're dealing with the company that has the wherewithal and the resources, and they were very instrumental, Jennifer Conway, Nick Duffel, and their team of looking at the other venues where Notes Live is currently working, which includes Colorado, Georgia, and Tennessee, and made sure that we were comfortable with the references and the backgrounds. We spoke to municipal officials in those cities to determine that did we feel like this was going to be a good partnership, and that was a lot of due diligence we did back in August. So I'm thankful for that. And so I think the council member's right. Probably every 2 or 3 meetings there's going to be something, whether it's just an update or there's going to be some form of action, so folks can be watching what we're going to do. I know, because you're going to be leading this effort on behalf of the city, a masterful job of communicating the steps have been completed with regard to this project, and I know a lot of folks are excited and they deserve to know what's going on, Aaron.
And Councilor?
I just think from a city councilman point of view, we're just fulfilling the master plan. You know what I
Great
mean?
point.
And just really excited about it. This has been in the planning for years and was always going to be part of that. And I think that we're designing it in such a way to really minimize any effect it would have on the surrounding property owner.
Yeah, it's a really good point. You mentioned the details and information. We have all of the information, including the economic development agreement, the consulting agreements with Kimley Horn to do some of the topographical and geographical surveys out there, working on the designs of some of that infrastructure already, that sort of thing. All of those agreements are on the city website, so we really encourage folks to go there and check that out for themselves. We also have the opportunity for the community to sign up for email alerts and text notifications, and that's another great way to find out when the next public hearing is, the next city council meeting, the town hall, and that sort of thing. So any last words, gentlemen?
I'll leave it to the council member.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm just ready to get going with it.
Hey everyone, my name is Jordan Kuckler,
Hello, I'm Lisa Jones.
and this is the new section of the podcast where we talk about a couple things that have been going on in our community recently. So to kick things off, this machine has recently decided to expand its fleet of bikes in Broken Arrow. They had a successful first phase or a pilot program, and they had over about 600 riders. They had over 2,000 rides, with each ride consisting of a little bit over 2 miles. And they've been killing it here in Broken Arrow, and people love their bikes. And for those who don't know what a pedal assist e-bike is, basically the more you pedal, the more the motor engages, so it makes it easier to ride essentially. So if you're going uphill, it's pretty smooth. I've been on them a couple times, and it's pretty chill, to be honest,
Yeah.
especially with someone like me who has bad knees, believe it or not. It's super nice because it takes a lot of the pressure off your knees when you're pedaling, and it's nice to be able to not have to worry about all that. So they're expanding, and they're planning to add at least 2 more bike hubs around the city, and I think there's about 11 right now. They're all throughout the city. I know there's a couple in the Rose District, and I'm sure people have seen them there because you can't miss them. So we're super excited to add that availability for people who need another way to get around the city if they
Absolutely.
prefer by bike or if they just want to go out with friends and casually ride. So it'll be big time for sure.
I know the city is committed to a variety of transportation options, so this is just another one.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
really excited about.
Yep.
Jordan, did you hear that Broken Arrow is the third largest manufacturing city in Oklahoma?
I did. That's crazy.
I know.
You wouldn't think it either.
This month in October was Manufacturing Month, and the City Council voted to recognize the manufacturers in the city. And there are so many things that are produced right here in our city, from advanced combustion equipment, heat exchangers, flight simulators, medical grade glass, just to name a few of the things. And we're really fortunate to have these businesses invested in our community and invested in our citizens.
Absolutely.
Manufacturers provide 5,490 jobs and $771 million to the Broken Arrow economy,
Jeez.
which is huge.
That's crazy.
In honor of manufacturing sector's significant contribution to the city and the state and the world, Mayor Deborah Wimpy declared, and the City Council declared, October as Manufacturing Month.
Very cool. That's big time for
Yeah.
our city because, it just goes along with Broken Arrow being a great place to work and live. And like you said, it attracts tons of new jobs for people to move into our area and get to experience everything that Broken Arrow offers.
Exactly.
That's big time for sure.
A lot of these employers, the starting pay is around $62,000. So that's impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great way to start.
For sure. And then just real quick, we every couple months we do an employee luncheon and we get to welcome all the new employees to the city. And recently we had about maybe 20 to 30 new employees start.
Amazing.
Well, they've been around for a couple months, but we finally got to recognize them and acknowledge them the other day. And it was super cool just to see all of them and kind of get to hear from them where they come from and everything. So we just want to give a quick shout out to all the new employees if you're listening. And, if you're interested in working at Broken Arrow, this is the place to be. If you're interested, you can go to brokenarrowok.gov/jobs and you can see everything that is available on there. And, the next calling in your life might be here in Broken Arrow. So we
Come
really
work with
encourage
us.
you. Yeah, definitely.
We have one more thing to talk about. The Christmas kickoff at the Rose District.
Oh, yes.
It's November 16th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. It's always a huge event, and everybody in the city comes out to see the lights turned on, and it's so much fun. We look forward to it every year. Bring your sweetheart and be serenaded by the melodious notes of Grady Nichols and his talented band. Take a magical horse-drawn carriage ride, glide on the open ice rink, and bask in the presence of Santa himself.
Nice.
You'll have to bring the twins.
Oh, absolutely. We didn't make it out last year just because they were too small, but I think we're going to try this year because a little bit bigger now. So one of them really loves lights.
Nice.
So I'm sure he'll be fascinated by it. So we'll probably be out there for sure.
That'll be fun.
So we're pumped. So, well, anything else?
I think that's it.
Perfect. Well, thanks for listening to the news section, and we're going to pass it off to Rounding Third with City Manager Michael Spurgeon and Communications Director Aaron McCulloch.
All right, this is Rounding Third with City Manager Michael Spurgeon, and this is the part of the program in which we look at some of the actions that City Council took during their meetings during the month and for the month of October. I wanted to start off really quickly with Superintendent Perry of Broken Arrow Public Schools. He came to the October 17th meeting, gave a presentation on the school bond package that's going to be up for election on November 14th. Talk to me about his presentation, what's in it. What was the reaction from the City Council? Do they go along with it? What was your take from his presentation?
Well, first off, it was great to see Superintendent Perry at the meeting. I just want to send a shout out to him and his leadership team. I think they're doing an amazing job pretty much running our school district, and I couldn't be prouder of the partnership and how he has come out of the gate in his new position and how he works and his team works with the city. It was awesome to see him there because he was talking about something that was so important to our community, and that is a local election that's going to come before us on November 14th, where the voters in the Broken Arrow School District are going to have the opportunity to actually consider a $52 million no tax rate increase bond package, Aaron, that includes 4 propositions. And I was so excited when he said they were going to be doing this, is because to me this is an opportunity to reinvest into the school district for some really basic things that are necessary to help with the education and the growth of our children. And I think it's important if I take just a minute or two,
Please.
and to talk about these initiatives, starting with proposition number 1, which is $48 million. And if I could sum it all up, it's really about safety, security, technology, maintenance facilities, transportations, and some fine arts and sports. I mean, there is, for example, $5 million for an investment in safety precautions across the district for such items as perimeter fencing, securing vestibules at the high school, LED lighting, cameras, all those things to make sure that our kids have a safe experience. They're also talking about technology. I mean, technology is ever changing. About $18.5 million is going to go for the technology for the students in the classrooms to help them with their learning. They also got about $14.2 million HVAC units. I mean, the school district has so many buildings within the district, and they need to replace those HVAC systems to make sure that you have the comfort that goes along with being able to be in those buildings.
Yeah, I see here, I don't mean to cut you off, but I see here they have some that have an average age of 26 years.
Yes, I'm glad you pointed that out. That's why we need to make those changes. The city has to deal with the exact same thing. I mean, we've had to replace a number of our HVAC units in the last couple of years. Also, you're looking at, because of the size of the district, about 115 square miles is what they have to travel. They're looking at $4.5 million to help with a transportation terminal to be used in the south end of the city to reduce operation cost. Superintendent Barry and I have talked about this quite a bit, about a location to try to find a place to do the transportation terminal. And also fine arts and sports makes up the rest of the package for Proposition 1, and that totals $48 million. The second proposition they have to do separate is for buses. I mean, that is the main source of transportation for so many children within the school district, and we need to make sure that they have the right buses to be able to serve the children throughout the entire school year. And so you have to do that proposition, according to Superintendent Perry, separately. The third proposition is no new money. It's really interesting is they made a determination is that Elementary 17 was approved in a previous bond package, and they've looked at what opportunities there are, and they've determined that they would like to ask the voters to reappropriate that money instead of building a brand new school, but to build what they call pods on several new schools. I don't know specific which ones, but I know they're talking about building pods with the main purpose of is reducing the overall cost of administration and daily operations. If you build a brand new school, just think about you have to add a new principal, support staff, teachers, and so forth. By doing the pods, you still have to add personnel, but certainly quite less than building a brand new school. And so they're very excited about this repurposing of those funds and then adding on to the schools. And I think it's going to look amazing. You probably won't even tell there was actually an addition to those schools that they pick. And then finally, this is something very important to the city, is in a previous bond, the school district, the voters approved, I believe, about $35 million for an aquatic center or an auditorium, and it specifically said it had to be built at Kirkland Field or the Kirkland Complex right there off of Lynn Lane. And in this proposition, they're asking voters to take off the requirement of where they build it, and allows the school district to look at other opportunities or other partnerships to be able to build that facility. And one of the things that we've been talking about for about a year now, is there an opportunity for the synergies between the city and the school district to come together as we're looking at a new community center that we'll ask our voters to consider, and what they have approved in terms of the auditorium. Is there a way to partner together out at Elam Park, for example, and try to put those two together and just come up with this amazing facility for both entities?
So Proposition 3 and Proposition 4, you mentioned both, are no new money, and that those are on the heels of a previous approval from the voters from back, I think it was 2015. They have to do this as far as bring this back to the voters because they're wanting to reallocate those monies. Is that a state law thing? How does that work? Because the voters approved for those monies to be spent specifically on a new school and specifically on the pool to be at a certain location. So in order to change that up, the voters have to approve it? Am I guessing that correctly?
In layman's terms, the answer is yes. Aaron. Anytime the voters approve something, especially if it's a named type project or initiative, and if there's a specific address that's listed, if you want to do something different than what the voters approved in a previous bond package, you have to go back to them and you have to get their approval. And that's just the transparency, and it's state law that says that you have to basically go back to voters and ask them. And that's what they're doing with regard to the elementary number 17 is using those funds. The same thing is creating classrooms, and rather than creating a whole new elementary school, and then where they could build the natatorium. So I think these are good decisions. I've been talking to the superintendent and several members of the school board for the last year. You ask, how did the council react to this? They were extremely excited and favorable, and they would certainly hope everybody gets out. And I couldn't think of anything that's more important than to get out and support our schools. And just a reminder is that I believe this is not a simple majority they have to secure, is that in order to get this approval, Aaron, I believe they have to get 60%. So that's why they're doing a great public education campaign about the projects, the initiatives, what's being considered. And there's also a private entity that has gotten together that is going out and to promote the package as well. So just get out on November 14th, and let's continue to keep Broken Arrow Public School District one of the best in the state.
You said it, November 14th, that's the election day. And then, of course, if people have any other information, want any more information about it, they can go to baschools.org, and they'll be able to find what they need there. Staying on the topic of general obligation bonds, ours from 2018. On October 17th, the City Council agreed to sell $35 million in bonds to BOK Financial Securities at an interest rate of 4.2%. And, of course, this represents the 8th series of that 2018 general obligation bond package. 27 projects. Once again, transportation kind of takes the lead on that, 15 different projects. What does this mean, 8th series? We've talked a little bit just about our net assessed value, and we kind of seem like we're ahead of the curve here when it comes to the 2018 bond. Am I right?
We are. When you put a bond package together, you've got to look at a number of different things about the projects. But you can't build all the projects at one time. You have to determine what the priorities are. You have to look at how much money is going to be available. In the city's bond package that approved overwhelmingly 6 propositions in August of 2018, it was not just a straight $211 million, and you divide that by 10 and come out with $21 million. It was a no tax rate increase, and so you have to look at your assessed value, what bonds have rolled off, to determine exactly what you can sell. So that's one thing we had to do, in addition to looking at the cost of the projects, knowing that if you have a project that costs this much money in 2018, say a road, for example, or a building, but that's not a priority, so it may not be built until 2024, 2025, you've got to add the time value of money on there to make sure that when you're saying if it's $5 million that road is in 2018, it might be $5.7 million in 2025, and so you've got to factor all that in. With regard to the assessment, you determine what that amount of money you can actually sell every year as you look at your assessment. So we had a very conservative approach to how much we felt like our assessment was going to go up every single year, and I believe we used approximately 2.5% in growth in our total assessed value of the community. And we've been blessed that actually the actually numbers we've gotten back from the assessors in both Tulsa and Wagner County respectively has been well above that 2.5%. I'd rather be very conservative. What we're excited in one sense, but a little bit nervous in another, was we got our assessment back in August for the coming year, and it was 9%. And so
it's not exactly 2.5.
No, it was much higher, which is really good. It just tells you Broken Arrow continues to be a great place for private investment, whether it's housing, whether it's businesses, commercial, retail. People want to be in Broken Arrow, and so we're blessed to say that our assessed value has gone up. Well, because our assessed value has gone up above what we projected, we've actually been able to sell more bonds. For example, we were only going to sell about $27 million this year, but by going up 9%, we now can actually sell $35 million. So what we've done is we've actually sold year 9 and 10 already because of the increase in our assessed value. And so what that's going to mean, Aaron, overall, is actually instead of going back to the voters for the next bond package in 2028, we'll be going to the voters sometime in 2026.
And because that net assessed value has grown, it basically increases our rate to borrow, in essence, to sell these bonds, because we have the credit and the capacity to be able to get that money back through the ad valorem taxes.
Well, yes. I mean, what we'll be doing is, with the increase in the assessed value and the fact that bonds have continued to roll off from previous voter approval, right now we're in this process to determine exactly what we would be able to go ask the voters to consider in various propositions over the next 10 years, sometime in 2026. So we're trying to determine what that is, whether that could be, it could be $287 million, it could be $350 million. We're trying to get, and that's a wide range, but we're trying to actually determine what, and make some estimates of what that assessed value is, and look at the packages that are rolling off to determine. But it's very exciting because, you know, we've done some great projects in the 2018 bond package, and staff right now is already in the process of starting to look preliminarily of what projects we're going to be asking the citizens for their input, like we did in 2017, and we're going to build a very robust, great package that's going to continue to improve and build upon the great quality of life we have in our city.
So we're looking at that possibly for 2026. We still have 2 more series that we have to do for 2018, yes. And then 2026, more than likely be going to the voters again for them to decide on more propositions.
We will. Probably either it's going to be in April or August. And once again, everything's still coming into focus about exactly when we need to do that. And you're going to be heavily involved in that. I'm super excited that you're here and your team with Lisa and Aubrey, Michael, Jordan. I mean, we just have an incredible, not Michael Jordan, but Michael and Jordan.
It'd be kind of cool to have Michael Jordan here, wouldn't it, though?
Good, we get him here. I'm excited about the communications. I mean, transparency is very important to the city, and making sure the public knows our Thrive editions. If you can need to know what's going on in Broken Arrow, how we're spending our money, it's really all out there for you to see. And this bond package is going to widen more roads. It's going to improve facilities. It's going to improve stormwater, potentially parks and recreation. There's so many things that the public says they'd like to see. I'm really I get really excited about bond packages because they just have the potential to be transformational for your community.
It's a lot of work, but it's going to be exciting stuff.
It is.
Look for that in early 2024. We'll
Yes.
start getting some things out. Last thing that I wanted to touch on, and this is another one of those really exciting things, is beautification. You like to say, and I'm going to steal your line here, so I apologize. It's putting Armor All in the tires, and this is an awarding of a contract that City Council gave to a company, about $170,000. to paint some of our traffic signal poles around the community from that boring gray to a nice black, which really just aesthetically looks so much better. I mean, we see it now in New Orleans Square. Why is this important to you?
Well, how do I say this? It's kind of hokey. Okay, and as you know, and all the directors do, and the council members, I'm the type of person that you tell a story, remember the point. And to me, I've always looked at when you do beautification, it is so important, but it really is. It's equivalent to if you go to the car wash and you've got your car and you go wash your car and clean it up after a week or two with a couple of rains, or if you've been able where there's a lot of dust. If you don't put Armor All on the tires, I mean, that's the first thing I look at when I look at a car that's basically nice and clean, is where's the Armor All on the tires? And I use that analogy all the time, is that some of the things we're trying to do right now in Broken Arrow are Armor All on the tires. The beautification at New Orleans Square is a perfect example. We may be asking voters in maybe a smaller down or scaled down version to do other types of improvements at intersections that really, it's about civic pride to me. It's about you looking at your community and saying, I'm just super proud of what the city's doing in order to improve the appearance of our community. And when you see New Orleans Square, that's what you see. For the city council and myself, we talked about what else could we do, the small little things that actually increase that civic pride and increase beautification, and changing out from that gray type material you have for those poles into the black poles like we have at New Orleans Square and down here in the Rose District. To me, it just gives you a sense of, we're really taking care of what we have, and we're going to put some pride back into those areas. And I'd like to see us do these 10, as I understand, are in the package. And because we got such great bids, we may actually put out a second package because we still have money available. And I think it's just going to sizzle up or get that armor all that I think our community needs. And that's why signage coming into the community is important to me. That's why the right type of paint on poles, redoing and making sure we take care of the Rose District and New Orleans Square with the flowers that are out there, the roses and so forth, because it just says a lot about who we are. And this is a very caring community, in that we take care of each other, and we also take care of the public improvements the public gives us money to basically purchase or improve.
What I love about it is it really creates our own identity. It helps distinguish us between our neighboring communities. Not that there's anything wrong with our neighboring communities, but you want to stand on your own 2 feet. And so when you go into a community and you see the signage, or you see, the detail that's taken with just these, something like painting street poles and traffic signal poles, it makes a difference. And it really does drive home that civic pride and that sense of pride in your community.
It does. And, to me, we're never going to get away from asphalt and concrete, because when you think about asphalt and concrete, you're talking roads, sidewalks, storm drains. It's just so important. Asphalt and concrete, honestly, are major expenses that all communities either have to make or reinvest in, and that's always going to be a top priority for the city. But if we can afford to work in some armor all for the tires for our community, it's only going to continue to set Broken Arrow apart from everyone else, and continue to make us a place, as I like to say, that people are coming to, not going from, because there's a lot of people that want that, and it's get mentioned all the time, that the small little things. I mean, there's some great communities around the state and around the country that do that as well, and I want Broken Arrow to be the 250th largest city in America that many people have never heard of, but we're on the map now in many cases to be proud, because we're doing things that really make us stand out.
And just some of those locations, we're looking at the Kenosha corridor from Aspen to County Line, so those intersections are going to be done first. Then we're looking at Main Street, Houston, Washington, and there's about 3 others in there. I don't recall what they are off the top of my head, but those are the areas that you're going to see these first, and then we'll, quite possibly, you heard it here first, build off of that, because we got such a great deal on the first contract.
And let me jump back to the bond package real quick, is that right now, the city has 4 miles of road widenings that are currently under construction. We're just finishing up what I call 209 South, which is from Kenosha to south to Houston. So we still, and they're doing some punch list work. We still have 3 miles under construction. In this bond package, there's a number of road projects that actually are going to continue the efforts of the city to widen some roads and upgrade some roads. And so I'd encourage, and would you mind sharing with folks where they might be able to see that list of projects?
Yeah, we have that list of projects on our website, brokenarrowok.gov. So it's a very easy find right there on the front page, actually.
Okay. Good deal.
That is it for Rounding Third. Thank you for your time, Mr.
Always.
Spurgeon. Appreciate that. It's time to go to Be a Good Neighbor.
Let's do it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Be a Good Neighbor. My name is Mike Godfrey.
I'm Aubrey Cease.
And Be a Good Neighbor is a chance for us to shine the spotlight on people being a good neighbor in Broken Arrow. So you got a couple of things to share with us?
I do, yeah. I actually had some stories from a couple local scouts groups. So recently, some local scouts from Troop 513 were able to complete the National Youth Leadership Training, which is, scouts from all over the U.S. have to achieve at least first class rank in order to go to this leadership kind of summit for Boy Scouts. And once they get there, it's a 6-day summit basically where they get to kind of network with each other, get to make friends, but also get some really cool leadership skills in all these classes and learn from Boy Scout leaders all across the country. So I thought that was pretty cool. They had 2 scouts from that troop that went to that conference. And then recently, if you've ever seen, it's called the Broken Arrow Blessing Box over by the Brio. Have you ever seen that?
Is that like a box where people can leave and take stuff? Is that what that is?
It looks just like a birdhouse almost, but a little bit bigger, right on that corner of First Street. And that was actually started 5 years ago by a local Girl Scout troop.
Wow.
And they saw it on social media a long time ago and wanted to kind of implement something like that for one of their projects around here. And it has been going for the entire 5 years. They say if it's empty, that means it's being used. If it's full, that means people are dropping stuff off. So they recently just revisited and did kind of a little 5-year anniversary. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's very good. And I can see how, I guess it's in the name of Blessing Box. It's a blessing for the community, both for those who want to give and help out, and then the others who need help. It's there for them to receive that.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Do you know of any BA Good Neighbors?
I know of a lot of BA Good Neighbors that happened this weekend. This weekend, the city held its biannual, twice a year, Trash Bash and Recycle Rally. So it's one huge event separated into different things. The Recycle Rally is the city partners with different people, different organizations where you can bring things to them that you normally can't recycle, like spare tires, ammunition. If you need your documents shredded for security and privacy, they'll do that for you for free. It's a huge event. I was out there at the events park is where we have it, and just to see the line of cars just line the events park, and it was very well organized, and everyone just was able just to go through just to drop off the things they want to dispose of properly. It was really a great sight to see and have everyone come out for that. And the Trash Bash is an opportunity where groups can come together to clean up the community. So I was able to do that with some of our members of the Youth City Council, along with one of our other counselor, Johnny Parks. And we were able to clean up the Aspen Creek area. It's kind of like right behind Lowe's. There's a tree line there, and for some reason, a lot of trash just kind of gathers there because of the wind and everything. The tree line stops it from going into the neighborhood, but the tree line and the fence, there's a lot that builds up over time. So the youth, we had fun going out there, cleaning everything up. We actually was able to go into a retention ditch and clean that up too, so trash doesn't get into our ponds and creeks and everything. And what was really great is the city provided us with everything we needed: gloves, vests, trash bags, the little pincher grabbers that you can use to pick up the trash. And then we had separate bags for trash and recycling, so that if it's a can or a plastic bottle, we would recycle that as well. So all in all, there are a lot of opportunities for everyone just to get involved this past weekend for being a good neighbor.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that the Trash Bash is kind of like this semi-annual reminder for people that it doesn't take an event to go out and clean up your area. You can volunteer to do that with your friends and family anytime you want. So I look forward to seeing more of that.
Oh, definitely. And that wraps it up for Be a Good Neighbor. If you have any stories to share with us, just follow us up on social media or make contact with us on our city website.
The Vibe Broken Arrow is produced by the City of Broken Arrow. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to hear more about Broken Arrow, the city where opportunity lives.